Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive-Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard. So pleased to be with you today here on African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, beloved. This is such a wonderful day, and I'm so pleased to be with you live today as we start the new year. I pray all is well for you, your family, friends, and loved one. And this is a wonderful opportunity, a unique opportunity for us to shape our lives, beloved, and to make it the life of our dreams. Yes, and in addition to that, today is another holy day, another holiday. It's my 46th birthday. Yes, it is. And I'm so pleased and honored to be with you. I certainly will say this, that my life has been one filled with extraordinary magic, miracles, but also extraordinary tumult and challenges. But it was meant for this moment, born for such a time as this, to do extraordinary things on our planet. And I'm so pleased to share the same time space continuum with you, as well as my brother here, Brother Phil Scott of African Diaspora News Channel, and my other colleagues. We're in a unique time to do some absolutely amazing things, family. And I never want us to lose sight of that. This is a side point that I need to make. I need us to understand this. When we look at things as recently as the United States election, where the Democrats lost because their main and most consistent voting bloc, which are Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, did not show up on their behalf. We warned them. We voted for them for 60-something years, multiple generations, and they did absolutely nothing substantive for us. We did that using alternative media outlets just like this. They mocked us. They laughed at us. But our influence is absolutely undeniable. Line upon line, precept upon precept, we've been making absolute amazing gains. I'm just using it as one example to show how we are not only changing the narrative, controlling the narrative, but beloved, we're going to have an effect, and we are having effects in actual world events. And that's something that we must focus on. That's something that we must study. That's something that we must employ and activate in other areas. Yes. So shout out to us. And it's such a privilege to be here. And I have to take that moment to acknowledge where I am in my own life, because I've been through hell, beloved. I've been through a lot of unjust circumstances and situations. I've been in the belly of the beast, beloved. I've been near death's door because of my health challenges. So I would be remiss not to, number one, show gratitude to the divine and my spiritual team, but also acknowledge where we are with you, and that is not for nothing. Yes. Family, I want us to move forward with today's broadcast. Certainly, some of you all have been hearing about the drama that has taken place with folks from other communities, other people groups, taking advantage of hip hop, taking advantage of foundational Black American culture. I want to emphasize that because, you know, people from different groups sometimes, and unfortunately, some of our own people have the nerve to say such ignorant and silly things like, what culture does Black Americans have? What you talking about? What culture? Your world exists because of us, silly. The culture most of folks are fleeing to. That little small itty bitty thing that you say you want to experience what you call the American dream based on our very Black American nightmare? Let me hit the gavel on that, just because people have lost their little minds and stuff. I can tell you done picked up doctrines of demons that's pushing out a false narrative that we don't have culture. Culture. We have more than culture. We created a whole world for you to come to. It was our inventions, our creations. Washington, D.C., the actual layout of Washington, D.C. was laid out by a Black person. The government that was set up was influenced and impacted by a foundation of Black Americans. The constitutional governmental system was actually taken from some of our other ancient Black ancestors as well. The food, the herbal remedies, the magic, the industrial gains, the technological gains. The hell are you talking about? I don't know why I'm out here fiery today. This 46, baby. I'm closer to 50. I'm closer to 50 than I am 40 now. It's just, the older you get, when you get in your 40s, your life it's sweet and you don't take nothing. If people take too long to bless you, to come to understand your magic, to respect who you are, what you do, child, you get to step it. Don't nobody be worried about nothing. Let's just be clear. The world, you confused. Talking about what culture? Every major musical anything is connected to us. Now, we don't take nothing away from our Caribbean brothers and sisters. We don't take nothing away from our African brothers and sisters. We don't take anything away from any of those things. But a lot of that is also indigenous to us. And because a lot of our history, including the fact that a lot of us were actual indigenous natives to actual America. And some of us certainly were brought over from the continent of Africa. And certainly some of us have a lot of connections with the Caribbean. But baby, let's not act like there's not any direct connection to us on this land. And you can't shed the blood that we've shed for the generations that we've shed it for. And not say, no, baby, I don't know about y'all. I'm from Mississippi. I live in the Wild Wild West now in Colorado. But we had to grow up in music school. I don't even know if they teach babies music anymore. We were singing all through school. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands. Did y'all ever sing that in school? Oh, I'm really showing my age. Yeah, this is our land. Child, please. Our land. We did this. And I want my Black family around the world to know this, because, see, you're confused, because a lot of us are confused, because the powers that shouldn't be our open enemies are the ones that control the books. They're the ones that control media, arts, and entertainment. So they got you confused, got us confused, some of us, not knowing our own history and what we contributed. I was a part of a documentary a couple of years, the preview of it was a year or so ago. My brother Tariq Nasheed, I was in his documentary about the American Maroons. How many of y'all even knew about the Black American Maroons? We just called it the American Maroons because a lot of folks know about our brothers and sisters in the Haiti region, in the Caribbean region. But some of y'all didn't know that many of our people actually stayed on this land, and we were such a force for the United States of America that they were making compromises with some of our Black ancestors that was beating the brakes off of our white oppressors here in this country. A lot of us didn't know that. A lot of us didn't know that we work with the ecosystem in certain southern states and regions. We know about the Haitian Revolution, but some of us didn't know that those types of revolutions were happening right here in the United States by some of us. I was in that movie. We have to teach these sorts of things. I'm all over the place today. But I want you all to know what we bring to the table. We are the epitome of culture. Now, with that being said, I want you to get ready in just a moment to watch this very, very brief clip. I want you to listen to the clip, actually. Because Fat Joe is a Puerto Rican, Caucasian-looking hip-hop rapper who foundational Black Americans gave a place to. We allowed you into the rap game. We allowed you into our culture. We allowed Fat Joe to have a career, to make money, to have a legacy. We allowed him acclaim, only for him to turn around to show his very, very, very anti-Blackness that's been brewing under the surface. A lot of the people that's part of his own community Other Latino and Puerto Rican people have come out and said that he's been displaying anti-blackness. They said for a long time now, but it's just coming to the surface in a very public way, in a very undeniable way. Well, because of the fact that some of us in the Black grassroots and alternative media have been using our platforms to make it very clear that no, we're the inventors, we're the creators and the originators of hip hop and rap. He's been pushing back on it, but not just him, a whole lot of other funny looking people have been doing that. Well, he did a recent podcast. This clip is literally only a minute and some seconds. It's very short. But the podcast obviously was much longer than this, but he was talking trash the whole entire podcast. But not just on this podcast. He's been showing his little ugly colors, his true colors, in other platforms as well, pushing back about foundational Black Americans, making the very just, accurate, authentic claim that we are the creators of hip hop. Well, he's big mad about that. Now I want you to watch this very, very, very brief clip about what he's saying about that. He's going to specifically in this clip call us out. Watch this, family.
These rumors were made by radical Black racists. Let's just say that. Okay, it's a group of these guys that don't want to hear Jamaican, don't want to hear Guyanese, they don't want to hear a Black guy that ain't down with them. Right? So their job is to criticize anybody who don't look like them or who ain't Black American.
Who are these guys?
You want me to say a name? We're going to give them too much clout.
I mean,
the FBA, Foundational Black Authority, whoever these brokers is. I'm just keeping it a buck. And their shit's to attack everybody on Twitter. You see this run them? Like, your leader? Yo, man, you gotta be kidding me, man. And so they trying to change the narrative. They're not from New York.
Right.
So they telling a whole nother story. This was whoopity doop wop. Yo, bro.
Okay, family. Did you hear this disgusting language, this disgusting commentary? Did you hear the epithets that we had to block out? You all didn't hear the actual language, but I think you got the point because we respect these platforms and we try to go to links to, to keep it, PG-13. Number one, I want you to listen to what this white-looking Puerto Rican, who we allowed into the Black community. We accepted Fat Joe. We accepted Fat Joe. We brought him into the fold. Let's start there. So when folks start to run their mouths, we got to pay attention, family. I need everybody's attention right here. Everybody be sure to hit that thumbs up button, share. I know we came on a little earlier than normal, and sometimes the notifications don't go out, family. So be very intentional about sharing this on wherever your platforms are as well. Family, be sure to comment and like and so forth. Watch this. First of all, family, before we even get into the little nastiness of what he said, Fat Joe is Fat Joe because Black people put him on. He is sitting here disrespecting, cussing out, and using the N-word to describe the people that allowed him into the fold. So you can't say that foundational Black Americans, you called us ends, you called us broke, you called us radical Black racists. You use every disgusting anti-Black piece of language that you could think of, knowing darn well, Fat Joe, you would never use that language with the real oppressor. You wouldn't say that about other people groups. But you feel real comfortable saying it about us when it was our genre that allowed you to flourish. So family, when y'all want to sit out there and jump on the bandwagon, well, he do got a point. He does have a point. No, he doesn't have a point. How you a millionaire likely? How are you known around the world through the very Black people, the very Black community and culture that brought you in, that elevated you, that promoted you? How can you turn around and say it about us when we were the one that got you to this point? So the question that you need to be asking, family, is what happened? What's changed? Because it can't be what he said, and it can't be what some of you haters are out there saying if he got this far by our help. Okay? So we kicking in with a little common sense right now, right? So everybody say to yourself, Vicki, you got a point right there. How could all these black people bring him up on platforms? How could they elevate him? How could we give him all this money? How could we blow him up? How could we bring him prestige if we hated him? What happened over the past few years to where now Fat Joe is talking crazy? That's the question. So Vicki will explain it to you. What happened over the past few years is that some of you and other communities have felt real comfortable claiming that you created hip hop, that you are the originators of it. What we have found is that whenever a product or service, a gift or a skill or a talent, when some of you all find that it is profitable and that it has longevity, we find over and over again that people like to steal it. We know that if you control the books, if you control the media, you can make anybody believe anything. So we're not going to let that happen on our watch. So what happened is some of us who are in the Black grassroots have been gatekeeping our own creations. And so some of you all got the nerve to say, well, yeah, so what that you created? Why you got to say you created it? So, see, people that don't feel like you ought to say nothing about what's yours, that means that you a thief too. See, you got some thieving, robbing, scandalous ways about you. Let me help you. Let me point out your character real quick. If on the inside of you, you feel it's okay to steal other people's ideas and creation and not give them the credit and the benefit from it, that means that you a scammer. Your character is scammy. You a thief. You a robber. That's who you are. You a liar. If you have a problem giving credit to where credit is due and allowing the creators and the inventors of such a thing to benefit off of it too, because you certainly have, that makes you a thief. That makes you a liar. Now, how many times have I been giving you all the breakdown with historical references on numerous creations and inventions that we've had to gatekeep, where the oppressor has made the world think, for example, that they created electricity or the light bulb? Yes? How many of you all know that some of y'all might be running around not knowing that it was us that was responsible for the creation of cars? And we're talking about the mechanics and the skeleton, let's call it, the blueprint for it. We're not talking about for those that came later and added on something to it, or even improved certain areas, or who manufactured it. Because see, some of y'all think Ford did it. No, Ford didn't. Ford was known for manufacturing, having plants, mobile vehicle plants and so forth. That wasn't him. How many of y'all heard about George Washington Carver, a foundational Black American from the South? Our brother was an agrarian, a master of the ground. He was a master of the plants. And he created hundreds and hundreds of inventions from different plants. Many people know the multiple things he's done with peanuts and so forth. But how many of you all know that governments from around the world would meet with our brother, Dr. George Washington Carver? How many of you all know that not only did governments meet with him, that the United States military came to him for him to make creations and inventions, and he did just that? How many of you all know he helped his own Black family when he went to Tuskegee? He didn't have to, because my understanding is that he was raised by a white family. And according to Dick Gregory, may he rest in peace, Dick Gregory said that he was a part of a family that was enslaved. He no longer had his own parents because either they were deleted, they were murdered, or something else took place with him. So a white family adopted him, but he said, Dick Gregory said that the white family castrated him because they didn't want him to sleep with their daughter. So they raised him. And because he had a high-pitched voice, many during that day felt that he was homosexual. And they said that He allowed folks to think whatever they wanted because he didn't want to tell folks that they had actually castrated him so that he wouldn't sleep with their daughter. But when he was of age, he went on to Tuskegee, became professor at Tuskegee University to help his own people. He helped his own people master the land to where they were able to economically thrive because of his teachings. So here he is creating inventions that benefited his people, number one, that benefited the entire world. Literally, the world was coming to him. Also, the U.S. military and other folks. I'm just giving you that little bit of background. This is normal for foundational Black Americans, but we're not taught this. So y'all really think you something out there and you want to disrespect us. Don't you dare ask me about culture. Turn your lights off. Walk to work. Every area of your life has something to do with us. Shame on Fat Joe. Now, Fat Joe, just like a lot of, unfortunately, quite a few Hispanic folks in the United States, y'all come over here with your paperwork and you officially check the button, check off the button that you white. So first of all, please understand that we who are foundational Black Americans, we're a forever, henceforth, even forevermore uncheckable. Somebody put uncheckable in the chat. Somebody put the word uncheckable in the chat. I didn't say checkable. I said uncheckable. And put a gavel in the chat with it. Put a hammer in the chat with it. You should never feel comfortable giving us any kind of advice. We love people from all places. Now notice he invoked Jamaicans and Ghanaians. He invoked the Caribbeans because he's been getting so much backlash, Fat Joe, that he's trying to get more enemies of Black folks. And plus, I'm sure Fat Joe been seeing some of the people, some of our Black family from the Caribbean online pushing back because Black Americans have been holding it down. Now, let me tell my brothers and sisters down in South America and in the Caribbean area. Yes, maybe some of our people may say things that you don't like to make a point. And I would even go so far as to say, yeah, maybe some of our people take it too far. But you got to understand what's behind this. Everything we've ever done has been stolen, co-opted, and lied about, and we've not benefited from it. So we're doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on what's ours. That's number one. Number two, some of you all don't know that when you look at our press secretary, for example, the United States, the person that speaks as the voice for the U.S. president and the United States to the world, Kareem Jean-Pierre, she is of Haitian background, part of the LGBT community that they elevated. Joy Reid has a similar background that they done elevated on MSNBC. Other individuals that come here that disrespect us, talk crazy to us, mock us. And then because they have these backgrounds or their families have immigrant backgrounds, you all want to talk to us like you can teach us something about elevating in America. When the only reason why the United States, certain folks in the United States, certain powers in the United States, certain interests in the United States allow you to be elevated because they know you don't have our energy. So some of you are going to be so excited just the fact that you're here in America, or some of you going to be so concerned about making sure you keep your paperwork right, your visa and immigration paperwork right. You don't want to offend nobody. So you're not going to rock with us in the way that you should. You'll tell us to just be grateful for having running water. You'll tell us that if we demand reparations, that we need to be quiet and stop begging. You got to understand a lot of the opposition we've gotten, unfortunately, have come from some of our Black and African family that's come from the diaspora. And I'm trying to get you to understand that it's intentional when they elevate some of you all. It's not because you're bright, that you're smarter than us. We're not saying we know you're intelligent. But the idea of smarter, no, we created about everything. The oppression is real. I have been giving you a lot of receipts, and I often quote from this book, among many others, called How White Folks Got So Rich. You can Google on how you can order this little mini book. You can read this book on your lunch break. Just really quick here, on page 130, it's talking about Hollywood and racial propaganda. Now, before I read this, I want you to be clear. I want to say something real quick, how Fat Joe is trying to recruit hate against the foundation of Black Americans by invoking our Ghanaian brothers and sisters, Jamaican brothers and sisters, and others. Don't y'all be so silly. During the 1960s is when we got so-called voting rights and civil rights, which end up being really nothing. It's a big fat nothing burger. Y'all know that, right? Guess what other major legislation happened right around the exact same time? Did you all know one of the greatest pieces of immigration legislation passed during the same time frame as Black folks getting voting rights for the first time in the United States and civil rights? Guess who is given credit for serving as the momentum for that legislation? The impetus for that legislation? Foundational Black Americans. I need y'all to be real careful when you start to put your lips against us. Don't you ever side with our open enemies before us. If you don't like the way something is said, that's one thing. But the fact of the matter is we're the ones that have been your greatest allies here, only for us to be screwed and everybody turning against us. I want you all to keep that in mind. What we have found is that the United States has spent hundreds of billions of dollars for Ukraine to fight a proxy war against Russia. We send billions of dollars every year for Israel. We send hundreds of billions of dollars around the world to the tune of multiple trillions of dollars. How many of y'all saw recently where the United States State Department failed their 7th audit? This past audit is $800 and some billion, just under $1 trillion that they can't account for. And in the several years prior to that, they still show several trillion with a T. I said with a T, not a B, not an M, several $1 trillion that the United States State Defense Department, rather, the largest agency in the United States, they can't account for trillions of dollars. I'm emphasizing that because that's war money. They brought over the white Afghans because the United States in recent history, just over the past few years, we brought them over and gave them tangibles, homes and resources, talking about they helped us in Afghanistan. So we got to bring over the white Afghans. Y'all, they did that on Biden's watch. You all gave the AAPI community, after the pandemic, y'all gave them millions of dollars that was already in the government because the agents said that they was experiencing greater racism, and you all gave them a criminal justice protection law that Black folks in America is still technically waiting for. We're trying to get you all to see. You gave the Japanese descendants thousands of dollars because some of their ancestors were interned in the United States for a couple of years. None of them was crucified. None of them was lynched. None of them were sharecropping. None of them experienced convict leasing. None of them were in chattel slavery. None of them experienced Jim Crow. I'm not saying that being interned was good. No, that was horrible. That was terrible. But I'm saying, how can you guys think that we're not going to push back when the United States has been given billions and trillions of dollars for foreign wars and for migrants, legal and illegal, but they have not given one red cent to those of us who created the United States? Why don't you get that? And why don't you understand our fervor? If you don't understand it, then you're going to forever get this work from us. Fat Joe got a hell of a nerve. And he is upset. Notice he said that giving them attention. He said, don't give us attention. What is Fat Joe talking about? Don't give us attention. I started today's broadcast. I'm almost done. Give me a couple more minutes. I started today's broadcast off talking about it was us that turned the election. Because Fat Joe is sitting up here talking about, first he was reluctant to say FBA. Notice he specifically called out FBA. He said the last word wrong, foundational Black authorities. He was trying to say foundational Black Americans and gonna call us a group of them. Watch this. I have to bring this up for a reason. Fat Joe, nobody is studying you celebrities no more. Y'all ain't the only show in town. Regular folks are starting to listen to folks like myself who are spiritual voices, who are political voices, who are social voices that's coming from the ground up. Those of us that y'all consider to be nobodies, those of us like Vicki Dillard that use a laptop, my first laptop was given to me. Brother Phil remembers when I was on another platform when I was started working for him here at African Diaspora News Channel, and then he was like, Sister Vicki, you got to get you another computer, sis, because y'all was just mighty grainy. I was using what I had in my hand. And then over time, I was able to save up enough money and bought me another computer. Talk black to me, somebody. That was given to me. I used what I had in my hand. Talk black to me, somebody. To tell the story. Watch this. To tell the truth. That's why your support of us is important. So he's got some nerve to think, giving us attention. Like they're the ones deserving. No, you and legacy media types are the ones that lied and got us into all these unjust wars and alliances, and that's got our economy and our government the way that it is now, our society the way that it is now. You're all not going to be the new world rulers, baby. It's going to be folks like me that y'all consider to be nobodies. I'm almost done. In this section about how white folks got so rich, that's the name of the book. It talks about how Hollywood and racial propaganda. 2 minutes. It says, this is a quote here from Review of the Birth of the Nation. How many of y'all know that racist movie that was shown in 1915 in the early 20th century? It was shown in the White House, and that movie was the thing that sparked up a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. A review quote from The Birth of a Nation says this: the Negroes are shown as horrible brutes, given over to beastly excesses, defiant and criminal in their attitude towards the whites, and lusting for white women. Some of the scenes are plainly morbid and repulsive. This is talking about how folks show black folks in media and how they intentionally did that so that black folks will forever be considered to be the target in society and around the world, right? The book goes on talking about how in Hollywood, and racial propaganda and in the music industry is intentionally used to work against us. I'm simply trying to make a point here, which I don't really have time to get into right now because I'm getting ready to go. But this one part here, it talks about the fact that Hollywood produced a plethora of popular films and not only promoted white supremacy as America's national creed, but visually articulated America's official public policy toward its black citizenry. Blacks were cast out as a common enemy of white people. And it goes on to talk about the movie I just mentioned, Birth of a Nation, 1915. It actually paid homage to the Ku Klux Klan in that movie. It was financed and produced by a Boston area Jewish investor. It revived the terrorist organization, which using the film for recruitment grew it to its largest size ever, family. Did you all know that? It goes on talking about the German Holocaust and a bunch of other stuff I don't have the time to get into. It talks about MGM. And it also, in the next page, talks about black talent snatching, which is exactly where I was going with this whole notion of this white Puerto Rican man by the name of Fat Joe that we made rich and wealthy and gave a claim and a legacy to, only for him to turn around and call us radical black racists. Why are we called radical? Because we're claiming that which belongs to us. And then we got the nerve to actually monetize and decide that we have the right to benefit off of our own creations. Family, I got to get ready to go right now. Maybe next time we're together, I'll be able to get a little bit more into this section where it's talking about black talent snatching, specifically where it's talking about the fact that an entire white business infrastructure has been established that feeds directly from the talent of black athletes, musicians, dancers, singers, comedians, and arts of every kind who have set the standard for excellence in the entertainment field. White business people with no discernible talent, save their access to white-only money supply, sit firmly over a massive wealth-generating enterprise, no different from the old Southern post-slavery sharecropping model, while deriving incredible profits entirely from black cultural genius. It's way more because the book goes into talking about rap. It talks about blues, jazz, rock and roll, hip-hop. How many of y'all know right now that Beyonce did a country music album? And apparently she worked on that album for several years, but it just now was released a few months ago, I believe. She's been getting a lot of pushback from white folks. How many of y'all know we created country music too? I know it hurts, but it's true. I'm going to stop right there. I just want you all to know that you better be very careful and you better honor your black mothers and fathers that brought great wealth and great prosperity to you. And no, we're not going to back up from that which belongs to us. We don't care if you like it or lump it because you're a thief too. You better watch your mouth. It's our day. And the reason why black Americans are the conditions that we're in is because we have not been able to monetize on our own creations. Baby, it's a new day. Baby, court is now in recess. Thank you so much for tuning into the Vicki Show right here on the African Diaspora News Channel. Family, be sure to share the broadcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you again.